Up next we have the punk rock conservative Daisy Cousens. Daisy is a freelance journalist and political commentator based in Sydney. She holds a Master of Creative Writing, preceded by a Bachelor of Music and a Bachelor of Arts. Soon after completing her Masters, Daisy became a chief contributor at She Said Online magazine, and in 2016 began freelancing for the Spectator Australia. Her focus is political ideology, culture and satire. She's also featured on our favourite show, ABC's Q&A, ABC News 24, Paul Murray Live, and The Project, and also recently The Bolt Report. Welcome, Daisy.
Well, hello everyone. As you know, my name is Daisy Cousens. I am 28. I'm female, white, Catholic-ish, and conservative. Very naughty. I feel those things are important to note as this is about identity politics, and as a millennial woman, I have all the wrong ones. But I have always identified as right-wing. When I was 15, I came out in support of former President George W. Bush after hearing him speak at Parliament House on a school field trip to Canberra. I even, for the next week or two, insisted on wearing a lanyard around my neck at school with the words, "Proud supporter of George W." scrawled on the front, mostly to annoy my characteristically left-wing teachers. And I succeeded, but at least in part to remind myself that I was, in fact, different. And I have since changed my mind about Bush, don't worry. But yes, different, although not in a way that I could actually label at the time. I never understood why my classmates could be given special consideration for late homework for an hour's netball training the night before, when I trained as a dancer nearly every night of the week, competed every second weekend, and still got the homework in on time because I made the autonomous choice to do so. I rolled my eyes when teachers drilled environmentalist guilt into us in geography class, refusing to believe that human beings could be responsible for every single little thing that's wrong with the planet. I would bite my tongue to keep from laughing in assembly when the principal fed us the white guilt narrative, using Madonna's $2 million conical bra as an example of how Western indulgence had pushed us onto the receiving end of Islamic terror. And after 9/11, I never bought into the notion that the terrorists were good deep down and that it was the fault of the big bad West. My young eyes recognized the evil even then, regardless of the hand-flapping and virtue signaling of some, not all, of my teachers, the media, and as time went on, the comment sections on Facebook. So as you can probably gather, right from the get-go, my values were conservative, at least in a fledgling state. Always happy to express myself in increasingly outrageous ways, I unwittingly valued freedom above all else. Freedom of speech, freedom of thought, and freedom of action. I recognized incentive as the great inspiration for human achievement, not the promise of a participation trophy at the end of the race. I was inherently suspicious of popular opinion and ever wary of groupthink. I hated classroom group projects, preferring the solace of my own ideas rather than having to capitulate to the mob for a good grade. Needless to say, I was not only precocious, but skeptical, pragmatic, and committed to my own way of doing things. I was also, outside my immediate circle of friends, probably as a result of this, quite unpopular. So without knowing it, I was already committed to intrinsically right-wing ideas of individualism, personal autonomy, and an inherent dislike for far-reaching authority. And I was just getting warmed up. Now, when I finished high school, I was thrown into the fashy neo-Marxist paradise that is university nowadays. But I still wouldn't be duped, getting into raging arguments with my lefty friends before we even really knew what left and right meant. It was only when they started calling me names like racist, bigot, homophobe, internalized, misogynist, ignorant, etc., and eventually refusing to be friends with me anymore that I realized that something was wrong in the state of Macquarie Uni. And Facebook, and Hollywood, and pretty much every public cultural institution that the left has managed to hijack. But slowly, after witnessing many inexplicable episodes of Christ screaming lefty tanty throwing after announcing that no, I didn't think open borders were a good idea, or that the cradle-to-grave welfare state was a good idea, it occurred to me that the common reaction amongst all my opponents was, "You're a woman. How can you think like that?" And so, I was introduced to the insidious, toxic, delusional world of identity politics, a notion born of Marxist mob psychology dictating that all members of each identity tribe, be that woman, black, Hispanic, Asian, Muslim, Jew, gay, trans, attack helicopter, and so on, must all correspond to the same ideology. It is the left's favorite mind control mechanism, highlighting and catering to the particular insecurities of a supposedly oppressed group to create a feeling of helplessness, thus inspiring members to turn to their fearless leaders for instruction. And each identity group, however different, is united by a common enemy, the straight white man, who, regardless of having designed and created rather a lot of the Western world, is somehow inherently evil because of his gender and skin colour, which sounds a little bit like bigotry, I would have thought, but whatever. Terrible hypocrites, all of them. Anyway, being a member of a tribe is not without condition. You must adhere to the common ideas, sloganeering, and most obviously complaints of a group, regardless of their absurdity. And the price you pay for disagreeing with the tribe? Defamation, denigration, and eventual exile. However, there is one identity tribe who is particularly good at oppressing its members, ensuring they toe the party line without dissent better than any other. And this is, of course, the noxious, obnoxious, thoroughly sociopathic third-wave feminist left. Third-wave feminism, which is the modern incarnation, differs from first and second wave in the fact that its advocates in the Western world have pretty much run out of things to complain about. The first wave, of course, was all about achieving the vote, and we got that. The second wave was ensuring equality of opportunity, and we got that too. Now, the third wave, on the other hand, nobody really seems to know exactly what it's about beyond semantics. And given the propensity of its members to make colossal fools of themselves running around in pink vagina hats, or protesting the objectification of women by stripping naked and thus objectifying themselves in slut walks, it's very easy not to take them seriously, to write them off as a fad that will eventually implode. But I'm telling you right here and now that they should be taken seriously. Very seriously indeed. Not because what they have to say is somehow enlightening. Their arguments ceased to be groundbreaking about 6 or 7 years ago, which is why they started inventing words like manspreading. They ran out of ammunition. It's because beneath the excess body hair and shrill accusations of male privilege lurks an ideology that actively seeks to oppress and demoralize women as much as any kind of medieval Western patriarchy ever has. Now, in my early and mid-20s, I identified as a feminist. We all make mistakes. Not because I felt particularly discriminated against, but because of feminism's underlying principles of freedom, incentive, personal autonomy, and individualism specifically for women. All, as we know, are right-wing libertarian concerns. So feminism really, at its unaffected core, is a conservative ideology. However, at some point in the early 21st century, it was hijacked by the ever more regressive left, who wrenched it from its noble ideological roots and turned it into a movement based on lies, like the gender pay gap. Doesn't exist, and male privilege, which also does not exist. It was around 2 years ago I figured out that not only did feminism no longer conform to the simple push for equality and independence that it used to be, I was, as a conservative woman, no longer welcome. My base political beliefs did not match those of the exclusive feminist tribe, and as such, helped along by a healthy dose of Milo Yiannopoulos, I fled the pack because they literally kicked me out. So I am officially a feminist apostate. And trust me, the feminist left does not like deserters. Third wave feminist leaders are dangerous. They relentlessly peddle victimhood to vulnerable women to absolve them of any responsibility of anything that might be wrong with their lives. This is not for female empowerment, but so feminists remain in business and can sell out lectures and books. It is an industry. Feminist leaders tell women that regardless of the fact we live in a society where women have, by law, every single opportunity available to men, along with a cultural disdain for and a court system that punishes rape, sexual harassment, wage disparity, gender discrimination, domestic violence, and other atrocities, that women are still somehow an oppressed class. Millennial women, without a doubt the most privileged generation of women in the history of Western civilization, are being told that the playing field is inherently stacked against them. They are told that no matter how hard they try, no matter their unique talents and their traits that make them intrinsically female, they are doomed to fail, because masculinity and the patriarchy will always win in the end, which would seem to me an inherently anti-feminist concept. Young women are told that all men hate them and are somehow, by virtue of their gender, privileged over them. They are taught that men, especially white men, are to be viewed with at best suspicion and at worst outright loathing, deserving of punishment for a patriarchal past. It is the definition of a regressive ideology, the antithesis of productivity and the great inhibitor of freedom. The world feminists depict is, needless to say, utterly falsified. Most women do not thankfully buy into this. If you look at every poll from YouGov to Ipsos to the Fawcett Society, you'll find that while most women advocate for gender equality, about a third or less actually call themselves feminists. The two primary reasons for that being they see it as too extremist and too man-hating. They would be correct. So why don't more women speak out against them? Well, the reason is their very shady and underhanded battle tactics. These women are not interested in debate. They are not interested in the civil exchange of ideas, meeting in the middle, or agreeing to disagree. They are interested first and foremost in maintaining control of the tribe and are so sure that their way is the correct way. They believe that not only can they do and say absolutely anything they want, they believe that anyone who contradicts them or stands up to them in self-defense should not only be silenced, but actively punished. And I know from my own rather recent experiences with the feminist left in Australia, one little feminist leader in particular, who I'm sure you can all probably guess. She's from South Australia, she just released a book. They have no problem with attempting to humiliate their opposition into silence, using the same commentary they would denounce as the worst kind of misogyny if directed to their own and uttered by a man. The hypocrisy is staggering. So to anyone in the room with daughters, sisters, friends, cousins, nieces, I am issuing you a warning. Lock up your girls. It is very, very easy to be duped by a comfy victim mentality. And given the fact that the left has a monopoly on the media, social media, and Hollywood, home to the truly insidious feminist leader Lena Dunham, their propaganda is everywhere. Third-wave feminism robs women of incentive, hope, and aspiration. It turns men and women coexisting happily together on the planet into an all-out battle of the sexes, where the only team allowed to throw a punch is the one in the pussy hats. And while the situation for women in the Western world is still not yet perfect, it is the best it has ever been. The emancipation of women has granted us freedom, personal autonomy, and the right to do and say whatever we please. As such, regardless of what the feminist left continues to plaintively insist, the identity politics of being female is not in any way bound up in third-wave feminism. Thank you.